First, I want to thank you all for making the time to join us for today's webinar. My name is Natalie Taylor, and I'm a content marketing writer here at Feedvisor. I'm joined by Cynthia Stein, founder of eGrowth Partners and seasoned expert on reinstatements, infringement resolutions, and various other issues that Amazon sellers are faced with today. And before we get started, I want to just quickly mention that we will be sending out a link to today's recording, and there will be a Q&A at the end. So if you have questions throughout the presentation, just please enter them into the space provided, and we'll do our best to get to all of them. Product reviews on Amazon are critical to the success of your business. 79% of consumers go to Amazon to check reviews prior to making a purchase. But what if your reviews have been manipulated by black hat sellers? Over the last several years, Amazon has been plagued by an emerging group of black hat consultants, including counterfeiters, corrupt sellers, and listing hijackers, who use illegitimate tactics to manipulate the system on Amazon. These sellers operate in two ways, either by directly targeting innocent sellers on their own or by selling their services to other Amazon sellers who want to cheat their way to the top. And some sellers allegedly pay up to $10,000 a month to rank highly in Amazon search results. And their tactics include everything from fake review generation, which could be either fake positive reviews for themselves or fake negative reviews to hurt their competitors, and also listing manipulation and false infringement claims. More than 1/3 of Amazon sellers cite Amazon taking away my seller privileges as their greatest concern with operating on the platform. If your business is sabotaged by an unethical seller, not only can your account be temporarily suspended, but it can even be closed permanently, destroying any incoming profits, inventory that's en route to Amazon fulfillment centers, and your seller reputation on and off of Amazon. And amidst the Q4 rush of holiday sales, the stakes are higher than ever. 56% of Amazon sellers make up to half of their total annual sales on Black Friday or Cyber Monday. Falling victim to black hat tactics in Q4 could be devastating to your business. So it's more important than ever to have precautions in place now to protect your brand or otherwise lose sales and credibility on the marketplace. So today we'll be breaking down the various tactics that black hat consultants use on Amazon, as well as how to identify their activity on your account, how to properly report them to Amazon, and proactive measures you can take to prevent falling victim and having your selling privileges suspended during the Q4 holiday rush. So on that note, Cynthia, I'll pass things over to you.
Okay, thank you, Natalie. For those of you who don't know who I am, basically I've been a consultant in this space, since the early days. I've actually started off as a seller in 2010 and did consulting on the side, and I went full-time into consulting in 2015, where we've been helping our clients get back on the platform and resolve other kinds of those pain in the ass issues with Amazon that come up all the time. I have a blog. I've written multiple books. I'm working on my third book now, called Dirty Seller Tricks, and my company is eGrowth Partners. So just a little bit of background about me. Next page. So yes, so one of the things that we're going to talk about in terms of prevention is being sure that you're regularly checking your Amazon account for suspicious activity, because sometimes it looks like Amazon's out to get you, but it's not. It's actually someone else. Next slide. Okay, so we have a little poll. If you guys want to fill this out, we can talk about it at the end of the session. But just to get a feel for people who are watching this, how often are you actively looking at your account for suspicious activity? So if you guys will fill that out, we can talk more about it at the end. Next slide. Okay, so I am here to tell you that you are a target. And, again, I'm not talking about violations of terms of service here, or that you have competitors who are clever at marketing. There are other sellers out there who are out to destroy your business. And they're not afraid to do it. They're not afraid to break the law. And the people listening to this webinar right now are probably at a higher risk than most, because most of the people on this call are high volume. They're larger sellers, and you're much more likely to have the kind of product that the bad actor wants to go after. And I'm going to explain that in a moment. Next slide. So the subcategory. So here's the thing. You would think that a bad actor would be actively focusing on being number one in a main trunk category like toys. But the reality is most of the activity is going on at what I call the leaves and flowers. So if the main category is a trunk, imagine the tree analogy, the subcategories are, basically the leaves and flowers. And this is where we see a lot of activity, because it's a lot easier to become number one in a niche than it is to be number one in a trunk, for example. But also being number one in a niche can be just profitable as being number 4 or 5 in a bigger subcategory. And so that's why and a lot of my clients were really taken by surprise that they had a bad actor coming after them, because they didn't feel, frankly, that they were that important. And so I just want to tell you, you are that important. I've had clients who sell things like, shoe trees, fireplace logs, things like that. They just wouldn't think of being a target, are definitely a target. So because they were number one in their subcategory. Next slide. So exactly who are these guys? And what is it that they have that they're using against you? And these guys have a God's eye view of your business. They know your business better than you do. And the reason that is because they're buying stolen data from Amazon that tells them everything they need to know about you. They know what your sales are. They know which of your products are selling the best. They know everything about you, and because they have Amazon's data, and so and they use this data tricks, which we're going to talk about, dirty seller tricks, and bribery to get what they want. So again, they're paying off people inside Amazon to help them, and we'll talk about that more in this presentation. They think they're untouchable. A large number of them are overseas. So, you have them in India, Ukraine, China, of course. But there are also quite a few of them right here in the US. And they have no sense of loyalty or fair competition whatsoever. So they're dealing in black market reports. They are hacking the algorithm. They have secret groups that they work together to take down competitors. These are the guys who can flip the switch. So there are even members of my own industry where you can go to them, pay them money, a lot of money, and they can get you back on in a few hours. And it's not because they're writing amazing appeals. It's because they have a guy on the inside who flips the switch. And then, who is running all of this? So look at what's behind this. I mean, yes, you have individual bad actors, absolutely, but you also have organized bad actors. So these are people who are, money laundering, running huge counterfeit rings. You have people back there who are knee breakers, scary guys, thieves, large organizations and syndicates that have figured out how to hack into Amazon, for example, and steal your disbursements. We just saw that last year. They stole, hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars from Amazon sellers, and just right out of their seller central account. So that's who these guys are. When I say bad actor, I'm not just talking about, somebody who they by themselves might be violating terms of service. I'm talking about somebody who is coming out after other sellers as well. Next slide. Okay, so these are our numbers, and I just wanted to give you an idea that we just gathered from our own list or our own reinstatements that we do. What are the ones that we see the most often? And so this is not an Amazon number is what I'm saying. This is our numbers. And what we see, inauthentic is still the biggest, and where we see a lot of bad actor activity on, people being taken down for inauthentic and it's bogus. Safety is a big one. So again, it's really easy to trigger a safety complaint, and they're a real pain in the ass to resolve. Infringement is actually on the uptick. Like, these numbers are a few months old. I bet if I redid them today, we would see infringement would actually be outpacing at least for sure safety and maybe even inauthentic. It's just been nuts lately. And these are bogus, complaints, infringement, counterfeit, copyright, patent, fake patent infringement claims. It's a mess. And then interestingly enough, because we do get these every single week, but reviews is only 9%. And, this is again, review manipulation. And we see a lot of bad actors here. But I'm going to say a lot of times my clients had a vulnerability here. And so that's why they were so easily taken down. We're going to talk about that in a minute. So, but these are very difficult cases to get back from. And so they're favorite targets of the bad actors if they want to take you down. Next slide. Okay, so how do they do this? Well, there's some simple stuff, which would be obvious to you. False claims, using trigger keywords. Somebody returns your product and they say, oh, it was obviously fake. This is a counterfeit product. Things like that, the trigger keywords. Or they might write a review on your product where they say that. Again, the fake reviews that Natalie had mentioned earlier, but actually sometimes what they do, they don't leave negative reviews, they leave positive reviews, but they're so obviously fake that they're designed to trigger the Amazon algorithm and take you down for review manipulation. So it looks like you paid these guys to leave positive reviews. It's very effective. And so I tell my clients now, not only do you have to keep an eye out for negative reviews, my brand owners, right? Not only do you have to keep an eye out on negative reviews, but now you have to look at your positive reviews as well. Stolen intellectual property, yes, we have seen a ton of this. There's been a lot of people, this is a vulnerability that they've not fixed, who have common law trademarks. They've been selling this product for 10 years, or they have intellectual property, but they never bothered to get a design patent. And so if they've not bothered to register their intellectual property for whatever reason, these guys are coming in, they're registering it, and then they're kicking people off their own listings that they've been selling on for 10 years. Vendor central takeovers. This is just, I can't believe this is still going on. Amazon knows this is a loophole, but they have not done anything to fix it. But basically, if you sell direct to Amazon, if you have a vendor central account, and by the way, people in China will pay $20,000 to $30,000 to get an Amazon account that has vendor central access, because they want to use it specifically for this purpose. Because anyone who sells direct to Amazon can go into vendor central and they can change any listing on the platform. So think about that. They can change any listing on the platform, and it looks like Amazon Retail made that change. So many people who are seeing weird changes being made to their listings, they're like, what, is this a glitch? No, this is not a glitch. This is somebody who's done it on purpose. And we see that, so again, they're either like stealing the listing, like they may change the brand from you to them, or they may be putting in things designed to get you in trouble. Like one of my poor clients, his bad actor kept uploading new pictures for all of his products, and they were obscene. And I mean, like, nasty, obscene. And so, of course, buyers were complaining because they would click on the title thinking they were going to look at, a product, and instead they have this vulgar, awful obscenity looking facing them. And, you know, my client wasn't doing this. He was desperate to get his listings back. But those are the kinds of things that can happen. Another tactic that's common, and by the way, this list is by no means comprehensive. These are just the ones we see a lot. Multi-account squeeze play. So these are guys who have 4, 5, 10. I had one client who just casually just said to me, this is when I was in China, oh, I've got 125 accounts. Okay, so these are people who have multiple accounts, and they use them to do various things and do squeeze plays. So if you go out to buy an item, whatever it is, and you might see on the front page, you know, 10 versions of that product, you know, company X has, I don't know, think about those natural oil infusers or, you know, something like that. So something like that. And you go out there, or you go out to buy a blender, and you'll see 10 blenders, right? All with different brands, but they're all exactly the same. And they don't belong to 10 different brands. In reality, they belong to one company, and they're using the squeeze play to make sure that the only products you see are theirs. And so other people might be selling blenders, but you have to go to like page 5 or 6 to see a different blender. And yet the buyer thinks they're all different because they have different brands, but they are exactly the same. I've seen this in the jewelry category. That's very effective there because, frankly, one pair of rhinestone earrings, studs, looks just like another. And and you don't realize it doesn't matter who you buy it from or at what price. You've just bought it from one bad actor. And then we've seen a lot of bad brand behavior where there's brand registry bogus takedowns. They lie, they claim counterfeit, they do things like that to take you down. Okay, next slide. Okay, so this is what I was saying earlier. Vendor Central is Amazon. And so if you're ever told by the catalog team or seller support that Amazon Retail made a change on your listing, it was not Amazon Retail. There is no reason for them to mess with your listing. It is somebody who has access to Vendor Central who has done that. And the problem is the catalog team won't override retail. It is really hard to get these changes fixed. You know, and again, like I said before, wrong title, they change the bullets, they change the images. We are seeing, you know, variation suspensions that our clients are getting because of bad behavior done by these bad actors. And brand registry is not a protection. And that's infuriating to me because my feeling is if you're brand registered and these are your listings, nobody should be able to change them but you. However, Amazon does not agree with me. So on the rare occasion, we have been able to get a brand exception such that only changes from brand registry will be accepted, but I can't tell you how hard that is. And it really should be that way to begin with. So for the most part, many sellers are left vulnerable to attacks from people through Vendor Central. Next slide. Okay, so here's just to talk a little bit about intellectual property because this is really hot right now. These guys are really escalating. But one of the things that I've seen that's just the most outrageous is literally hijacking the USPTO registration page for a brand. And what they do is they have a lawyer, quote unquote, go in to your USPTO listing and change who is the lawyer of record for your USPTO listing. And then they're able to claim that they own that intellectual property. They'll set up a brand registry for your product and your brand. Their fake lawyer, well, I assume he's probably a real lawyer, but their lawyer, their pet lawyer, will then verify that company X owns that intellectual property. They'll be able to set up brand registry and they'll be able to take you down. That is absolutely heinous. And the USPTO is doing things now to change that loophole in their own system, but it's not all there yet. There are still people who will literally steal someone else's intellectual property, and as part of their brand registry, they're stealing the pictures directly from their competitor. They're stealing everything. It's insane. So yes, we've had clients who suddenly lost all rights to their own intellectual property. And yes, we unwound it, but it took a lawyer to get Amazon Legal to help us. And then the newest trick, this is, I've seen this, I would say within the past few months. If you fight back, among other things, is they will spoof your address and send in their own retraction. So let's say you turn around and you take out somebody for violating your patent or for counterfeit or whatever, and you're not going to retract, right? I am not retracting against this guy. And yet suddenly they're selling it again in 2 days. And you're like, what happened? Well, this is what we learned through one of our clients' experiences, is that literally some of these guys have figured out how to spoof your email, and they send an email to Amazon with the takedown email, and they provide a retraction, and Amazon accepts it. And then when you complain, they look at you like you're crazy. They're like, well, you submitted the retraction. You're like, I didn't. So that's what's going on. And I believe that knowing what's going on is the first step towards prevention, which is why I'm currently scaring you all to death, and I'm sorry about that. Next slide. Okay, so what are some of the ways that you can fight back? Obviously, lawsuits, and a fair number of my clients have had to file lawsuits, to get, not only to get back what was stolen from them, basically, and to enforce their rights, but also to get Amazon to support them. So they can get their accounts back if they can prove to Amazon that, in fact, they're right and the other guy is wrong. But Amazon does not step in and mediate these disputes. And so you have to go prove your case sometimes in court. And the lawsuits that we see, and many sellers have had successful lawsuits: unfair business practices, tortious interference, infringement, defamation. But of course, the downside of that is they're expensive and they can take a long time. Amazon Legal, if you can provide, proof to them, they'll help. The problem is so many sellers will not step forward and provide proof to Amazon of bad behavior, things like this, because honestly, they're culpable and Amazon does not grant amnesty. And so they don't want to tell Amazon, oh, this guy, has an insider and you just pay him $10,000 and your account's back in 2 hours. Because how do they know that? And what's their proof? Well, it's because they did it, right? They pressed the easy button. And so it's really hard to get Amazon to act because they need evidence. But if you can provide proof of how the trick works, of platform manipulation, seller code of conduct violations, theft, fraud, absolutely Amazon Legal will support you. It's just that so much of the burden is on the seller to prove what's going on. Next slide. Okay, so this is the worst of the worst. And this frustrates me more than anything else that's going on out there. There are people inside of Amazon who are being paid to do these things that you see on the screen here. And, the insider is the worst because, what can you do, right? Amazon is not going to act on an internal actor unless they have definitive proof that that actor is bad, right? Like you can give them names and say, oh, I think this guy and this guy, and but they won't act on it unless you can prove it. And while I do understand that, that's incredibly frustrating because how is a seller supposed to prove it? And the list guys, the guys who sell Amazon sales data, Amazon catches those guys pretty often, and they usually are low-level people. But the people, there are also insiders who are very high up and pretty much untouchable unless you have a smoking gun. So I don't know, I know that Amazon does care. I've talked to people on the inside about this. But like I said, it's also frustrating because they need sellers to talk. They need evidence before they can act. So anyway, but let's just say this problem is real. I'm not making this up. Amazon knows it's real too. We just have to figure out how they can find those people. But obviously, if they can take out some of the ringleaders, things will get better at Amazon quickly. Next slide. Okay, fix your vulnerabilities. So this is, a lot of my clients are taken down, and they were vulnerable in the first place. So in other words, their own practices weren't fully buttoned up, and the bad actor exploited a weakness. And so what can you do to kind of fix your vulnerabilities? One is, you can anticipate that this might happen, and you can be looking for it. Just knowing what's possible will help you because you can catch it early. Also, you need to get authorized. So a lot of my clients were taken down for inauthentic or similar complaints, counterfeit. They have no defense because they're buying from the gray market or the black market. Well, those guys are bad actors, but the gray market, they're buying from unauthorized sources. And so when they're asked to prove that their inventory is authentic, they can't prove it, and Amazon absolutely will not help them. I also have clients whose business models are a little bit different than most sellers, and like they sell things on consignment or, or they're processing liquidation goods, or they're basically, if you have a model that Amazon doesn't understand or doesn't recognize as legitimate, again, you're vulnerable to attack and you won't be able to defend yourself. So I have a client who does print on demand stuff, and it's fabulous, may I add. But Amazon does not understand their model. And so we've struggled to explain to Amazon their model, and just to try and get them back for, they had an infringement complaint. And so that's what I'm saying is, like, you need to look at your business and look for what are some of the areas of vulnerability that a bad actor could exploit. You need to watch your reviews at all times, the positive and the negative. You need to test your products. So this is one that gets a lot of people in trouble. This is where people get in trouble with safety complaints. Someone will go make a bogus complaint like, oh, I used this battery charger and it blew up and caught my house on fire. Or I took this supplement and I was so sick I had to be hospitalized. And you're thinking, no way that happened. Okay. And maybe it didn't. It probably didn't. But how do you prove it? Well, Amazon says, fine, show us your test data on your product. And the client doesn't have it. They don't test their products. They don't have the right certifications. And so, again, they're vulnerable and they're done, right? Amazon's not going to let them back until they test their products and prove that they're safe. And frankly, some of my clients, they went and tested their products and they failed. So this is part of what I mean by being buttoned up. You've got to run the business like it's a real business, and you have to do all the things that the big boys do, including regularly test your products. Jewelry guys, oh my God, they get taken down all the time because Amazon is testing their jewelry all the time to make sure it really has the right amount of the different metals and jewels and things in it. So it's real easy for a competitor to take you out on jewelry if you're not 100% buttoned up and if you're not regularly testing your own jewelry. And then vet your vendors. So you're buying from a distributor or, you're buying from a middleman and not the brand. you need to make sure that they're authorized to sell that product, and you need to make sure that you are allowed to sell it on Amazon. So a lot of times you'll see these distributors, they'll sell you product, but they know that they know they're not supposed to be selling it to you, right? That you're not supposed to be selling it on Amazon. They're only supposed to be selling it to brick and mortar or to doctor's offices or to barber shops, beauticians, whatever. And you're selling it on Amazon. And so what happens is, the brand will come along later and say, hey, you can't sell my product. Where are you getting it from? And as long as your distributor is a real distributor, you should be okay. But if the guy you're buying it from isn't an authorized distributor of that brand's product, you're totally screwed. And so this is another vulnerability that people have, is that they can be taken out because they don't have the proper permissions. They're not selling authentic products. They're selling gray market. And then the bad actor can exploit that just by making a couple of inauthentic complaints that you can't recover from. Next slide. So what are you going to do, right? Stay out of trouble. So this is pretty much what I just said in the last slide. One of the things I want to add is don't forge or manipulate invoices. You would think that's kind of obvious, but I can't tell you how many times my clients sort of panic because they don't have the right invoices that Amazon wants. And so they make them up. They create them. Amazon catches them. They're banned for life from the platform. You cannot change or manipulate any part of an invoice. I've seen sellers who got their hands on a legitimate invoice and they went in and they just changed the information on it so it said it was shipped to them instead of whoever they got the invoice from. Again, don't do it. It's better to admit you don't have the right invoice and to try and work with Amazon on this than it is to submit a forged one. We can get you back if you don't have a real invoice. We cannot get you back if you forged your invoice. Protect your intellectual property. Again, seems obvious, but for a lot of sellers who, what they generally do is they'll start off testing a few products and to see what works, and they won't put the money into, the branding or the intellectual property right away because they don't know, is this going to take off? Is this going to be worth my effort? And then it does take off, and for whatever reason, they're not in there instantly, nailing down their registration, or it's too late because somebody else has already stolen it. Watch your returns and buyer complaints like a hawk. So we tell our clients they should be doing this every single week because that's where the trigger keywords come from that can take you down. And it's just a good business practice because you can see if there are other legitimate problems that you need to fix. If you're having a product quality issue, it'll show up in your returns. But mostly what you're looking for is, is there something out there that's just chock full of, negative keywords that Amazon may take you down for, then you're like, I need to get buttoned up on this particular ASIN because I may be getting a suspension notice for that ASIN real soon. And then understand international law. So again, sellers tend to make mistakes because they think that they can sell in France the same way they sell in the US, and it is, or Germany, for example, and it is really different. And so they tend to go out and they make mistakes, and they're not following international law. And again, a bad actor will exploit that and get you in trouble for it. So the more you can be buttoned up, the more you can be forward thinking, the more you can make sure your business is being run professionally, that you're testing, that you're following international law, the less vulnerable you'll be, even if you do come under attack. Next slide. So what can we do with Amazon to get their support? I'll tell you not a lot. I'll have to be honest about this. We help our clients file, violations and things all the time. And it seems like half the time Amazon does not do a thing, and it's very frustrating. But that's really all you can do. You can report it, you can do report a violation, you can provide the evidence, because again, as much evidence, real evidence that Amazon can see for itself will help your case. And, you know, exposing the trick, showing Amazon what happened and how it happened. Their paid seller support, their SAMs that you can pay for, are actually very helpful to my clients who have them, because they can push an appeal internally. They can help make Amazon see something that is sometimes harder, or that's more difficult if a client doesn't have a SAM. So I'm not saying that you should run out and hire a SAM, but if you are thinking about it, that is one of the benefits that they provide, is they can be your internal advocate when you have a tricky case. So some of my clients have found that to be beneficial. There are programs, especially if you're having counterfeit issues. Certainly Project Zero, its transparency program, has worked really well for my clients who have done it. It does get rid of the counterfeiters. And so at least that helps with one particular aspect of bad actor behavior that you might be dealing with. The same with the exclusives program. So if you have a unique product that really isn't being sold on the platform, then Amazon will allow you into their exclusives program, which is a really cool program, because they not only help promote your product and things like that, but it also acts as a barrier to counterfeit, because nobody can send in product to Amazon except for you, and nobody can change your listings except for you. So it's something to think about if you're someone who's having a lot of bad actor problems and your product is sufficiently unique. You could apply for the exclusives program. Brand registry, every brand should be brand registered. So if you're not, you should get brand registered right away. And Amazon has an accelerated trademark registry program if you use one of their vetted attorneys. So I would say right now, if you know that you have trademarks that you're using that are not, that have not been registered with the USPTO, do that now. I mean, like right now. So, because it does provide protections for you. You do get better treatment if you're a brand registered brand. And of course, there's all kinds of marketing benefits. But from a bad actor behavior, it really makes a difference when you can come in and say that you're the brand and you're brand registered. And then I talked about brand registry priority. Again, if you're having a problem where a bad actor keeps changing your listings, and they shouldn't be able to, but they are, that's when you start petitioning for brand registry priority, and just recognize that you may have to ask a lot of times and be persistent and show continuous problems, you know, where this bad actor is coming after you, before they'll give you brand registry priority. But once you have that, it will make your life so much better. So again, it's not something they will give to you proactively, but it is something they will give to you if you show demonstrated, you know, repeat problems. Next slide. Okay, so this is just a slide on how eGrowth Partners helps our clients fight. And, you know, we do emergency stuff. That's the account and ASIN reinstatements. We help with IP support, both from a brand perspective, you know, protecting their intellectual property, but also for sellers who have been improperly taken down by a brand who's like just trying to, you know, protect MAP or something like that that they're not supposed to do. We help you button up. We help you make Amazon pay attention. We provide advice, and we do account management. So that's just a little background on what we do. Next slide. And then a thought to think about. This continues on the platform because sellers aren't willing to speak up. They're willing to complain to Amazon, which helps, but they're not willing to they're not willing to come out and go on the record for anything. And I just want to state, I've got reporters that I work with that will keep you anonymous. And so if you have a story to tell, if you have evidence against black hats or, particular bad actors, come to me if you're willing to take the chance. And like I said, I know most of my clients are not willing to do it. They just don't want to take the risk. But I have to tell you, it's going to ultimately come down to a few brave people who step forward and expose the trick, or who point fingers and name names before this problem goes away, and before Amazon can go after the bad actors. So that's just a little passing thought there, that this problem is not going to get better by itself. And so for all you good men and women out there, just keep that in mind. So that's the end for me.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. Did you want to go through those poll questions?
Oh, yeah.
Poll results, I mean. So let's just pull that up.
Okay. So, all right. So I see we have some honest people here who say never. I would say it's probably bigger than 18%. If my clientele is any indication, usually before they came to us, they were never checking. But weekly is, of course, what we recommend. And what you should be looking for is looking at your reviews. You should be looking at all of your returns on a rolling 60-day basis, because that's how Amazon looks at your account, on a rolling 60 days. So you would go back, 60 days from the day that you're looking at. You would look for ASINs that are gathering an unusual number of problems, sorted by ASIN. And then you would read, oh, let me add, you have to download this report. You cannot look at it on Seller Central, because on Seller Central, they won't show you the reasons for the returns. That you have to download the spreadsheet. So FYI. But then you can go through, it's usually the last column, and you can kind of see what people are saying and, why they returned the product. And some of them will jump out at you as potential problems. And that's when you should take action. Like at that point, you can't stop the Amazon robot from seeing those trigger words. But if you know that this is an ASIN that's possibly about to be taken down because somebody claimed it was counterfeit, you can get ready. You can get your invoices ready. You can get your appeal ready. And of course, you can try and reach out to the unhappy buyer, but most likely that's not going to be effective just because they are a bad actor. They're not going to talk to you. But for a few that might be legitimate, you can potentially talk to them and see if you can resolve their problem. So this is what I mean by taking a proactive approach and just being aware of what might be coming up so that you can be proactive. So those are the things we look at the most. The other thing we look at, of course, is if there's been changes in listings. Usually you will know about a listing change before it shows up in your returns. So, if somebody took your black shoe and made it brown, and so then people are complaining because they're getting a black shoe, but they thought they bought a brown shoe, that kind of thing you will see in your returns. But a lot of times the changes are so egregious. Most of my clients actually are aware of them long before the weekly report. But anyway, looking at it weekly can help you detect these kinds of issues as well.
Okay, and just to piggyback on that, for more information on other ways that you can protect your business from bad actors on Amazon, we have our free ebook at the link provided here. And the guide includes strategies to recognize and handle product listing hijackers, how to navigate review manipulation, and 8 actionable ways to prevent account suspension on Amazon in Q4 and year-round.
Yeah, it's a good ebook.
Thank you. So now we're just going to launch a quick poll before we get into the Q&A, which you should see on your screen now. And as always, if you'd like to learn more about any of the ongoing initiatives we have here at Feedvisor, please connect with us. And so now we're going to get into the Q&A, and thank you to everyone who submitted questions via email before the event. So I'm just going to dig into a couple of those now. So first question, where is the best place to report a seller that seems to be manipulating reviews, has an unusually high review rate for a new product with low sales volume? Cynthia?
Okay, yeah, so well, one of the first things I would tell you to do is, of course, to investigate it closer. So go through all of their reviews, get to the older ones, and what you may start seeing happening is all of a sudden the reviews are going to be about a different product. I mean, I've seen, supplements who, when you looked at their older reviews, it was a cat toy in a previous life, right? This is called brushing. And so what bad actors do is they will go and they will find a listing that's maybe inactive, maybe, it's just not being sold, nobody's selling it anymore, and they will merge it with their product. And so, and then they'll basically all of a sudden have all the reviews and the good ranking of that particular product, and they suddenly will show up with 100 reviews overnight. I mean, in fact, most of these will go from 0 to hundreds to thousands of reviews in just a few days or a few weeks. And that is suspicious, and you should report it. And you can do it through Seller Central. I would start with report a violation, and you would give them the ASIN, and you would give them some evidence like this review on March 4th was clearly describing a cat toy, and things like that. So that's one thing that you can do is report it. Now, do they always act on that? They don't, because sometimes these bad actors are pretty well connected. One of the bad actor tricks that they do, or that they're able to do, those who choose to pay for it, is they can manipulate their standing with Amazon to such a degree that, it's complicated to explain, but let me just say, they will do it to such a degree that Amazon will not take them down for this. Like, their account is so bulletproof that they can get back from something like this, or they won't even be taken down in the first place. They also can pay people to flip the switch and get them back in a day or two. So that's a problem, and it's very frustrating for my clients when they submit a case and it doesn't get addressed, and especially for review manipulation. So what I have done is I have a couple of reporters that I'm working with that cover the review manipulation on Amazon, and I will send them. So you contact my team, contact me. I will forward it to the reporter, your evidence and the ASIN and the information. And what they do is they go ask Amazon, well, what about this listing? And then somebody looks at it. And so we've been able to get a number of bad actors taken down this way, but not always. I will tell you, there's a couple. Again, they were so well protected, nothing happened. And the reporter was baffled as well. And I'm like, yeah, that's what happens. And so I've been educating the media about this, and they can see it for themselves. So if report a violation does not work for you, then, and it's review manipulation in particular, send it to me and I will send it to my reporters. I think that answered that question.
Yes, I think so. And just, this was a follow-up question to that. What specific information should be submitted about the suspected review manipulation?
Okay, so again, what you want to do is provide as much evidence as you can. And that means, again, you may have to sit and go through pages of reviews to get to ones that are clearly, that that are clearly not the product in question. Or another form of review manipulation that we see is, maybe the company is offering an incentivized review. And so you have to go and read a ton of reviews and then pull out the ones that show what you're talking about and give the detail. Like I had one bad actor, it was insane. It was so obvious what he was doing that the reviewers were saying, hey, like let's say someone originally left a negative review. This product is crap. But then the bad actor reached out to them and paid them $50 to change their review. How do I know that? Because the reviewer said so. And it was over and over and over again. It said, look, if you complain and you're not happy, they'll give you $50. And they also had an insert in their product where they would give you $20 if you left a positive review on Amazon. And a number of reviewers talked about that. And my client did a test buy, and so they had a copy of the insert. So that's what I mean by evidence. You can't just say they have too many reviews. You can make that part of your claim, right? You can say, on this date, these guys had 20 reviews. 2 weeks later, they have 2,000. But you got to build a case, is what I'm saying. So you need to really provide Amazon with the evidence that there's something going on here, because just basically saying they have too many reviews for the amount of time they've been selling it sounds like whining and finger pointing, sour grapes, right? But if you can show that it really is happening, and I've had clients who, they did the test buy, they got in the system, as it were, they took screenshots of the mini chat and the whole 9 yards and sent it to Amazon. So that's what I would say. If you've got someone who's, a bad actor, the kind of evidence they need is things that they can find in their system once you point it out to them. Specific reviews and dates, specific items like that. If they're doing a mini chat thing, where they divert you to a mini chat so that they can offer you an incentivized review, that's against terms of service. So you just need to know all the ways that they're violating terms of service.
Thank you, Cynthia. Next question we have, what are some examples of trigger keywords that Amazon will take you down for?
Of course, there's the obvious, fake, counterfeit, knockoff. But like for safety, there's a whole bunch, injured, burn, hurt, afraid, worried, concerned. Those are keywords like I'm afraid that this product isn't good or it might make me sick, or there's a bunch of keywords around safety. And, there's a bunch of product quality and infringement potential. And like I said, the big ones that they use are, fake, or, the product wasn't at all what it said it was going to be. I'm trying to think of some of the others. Like the safety ones, again, anything that shows that a buyer is concerned or worried about their health, or of course that something really happened, like I went to the hospital, any kind of injury, sickness, anything like that is definitely, a hot word. I'm trying to think what else. I mean, literally there's hundreds of these words, but they are exactly what you would think they were. So when you look at your returns report, you'll be pretty obvious to you. You'll be able to pull out the suspicious ones that look like a false claim. And the same in your reviews, if you're reading your reviews. Now, if your bad actor is putting positive reviews on your listings, you can usually identify them because they're often in bad or broken English. I mean, it's a cliche, but most cliches are true. They may be talking about a different product. They may, here's the other one. They may all be using the same language. So you know, it looks like a script because it is a script, and they're all saying the same thing. And so all of a sudden you have 5 reviews that read almost exactly, if not exactly the same. If somebody's making a complaint, I mean, if somebody's doing something positive, they'll all maybe show the same picture. They'll all say the exact same thing. And what they're trying to do, the bad actors, make it obvious that these are fake. So if you detect this activity on your account before your ASIN is taken down, you need to report it immediately, like that minute. Drop everything you're doing and report it through seller support. And the reason why is not that Amazon's going to do anything about it. They probably won't. But when that ASIN is taken down, you can point to the case that you opened where you said emphatically, these reviews are obviously fake and we had nothing to do with them and somebody's messing with us, and we respectfully ask Amazon to remove these 5-star reviews. And it helps you get back faster, because if you don't catch it and then they take you down, it's really hard to make Amazon believe that you didn't pay for those reviews.
Okay, we have time for one more question. Kind of a two-part. I'm going to combine 2 questions that we received. So starting off, I started selling a product and I got the listing inactive, claiming an IP violation. I checked first and the item didn't have a patent. How can I dispute that? And also, why isn't Amazon able to track account changes by the IP address?
Okay, well, I'm going to take the last one first. They are able to track them by IP address. However, many bad actors spoof their IP address, or they use a VPN or something like that, so that Amazon doesn't actually know who's behind the IP address. And I will tell you, some of these guys are so smart that they're actually spoofing the IP address of my clients. And so it will look like my client made that change. So some of these guys are really technologically savvy, and but they are able to detect that. A lot of takedowns that they do, you know, they detect unusual activity coming from a particular IP address. Okay, to go back to the first one, read that to me one more time.
So I started selling a product and I got the listing inactive, claiming an IP violation. I checked first and the item didn't have a patent. How can I dispute that? Okay, so the question is that I have is, and I'll answer both, whatever it is, but you know, did they file a, if it's a utility patent takedown or not? So if it's a patent takedown and it's a utility patent, then what a lot of people are doing, both good actors and bad actors, by the way, is they're using Amazon's new program that allows you to file for mediation by an IP attorney chosen by Amazon. And you have 3 weeks to respond. And you have to put up $4,000. The other side puts up $4,000. You present your evidence. And then the IT attorney decides who has the legitimate complaint, and that's basically how it works. So it's much cheaper than filing a lawsuit, but it is still a legal process. You're going to have costs associated with it, but that's certainly the cheapest way for you to fight it, because the other way to fight it is to, of course, file a real lawsuit, but sometimes the law that let's see the law will say, I have a design patent, which is different from a utility patent, and these guys are violating it, right? They'll accuse you of violating their design patent. And basically what I have my clients do in that case is to hire their own IP attorney to make a strong letter or case that this does not in any way violate so-and-so's design patent, that it is a bogus complaint, and then we submit that to Amazon, and
sometimes they'll rule in favor of my client. So, you know, we basically say out of the gate, this is a completely bogus complaint, but it's so situational. It really does depend. Let's just pretend that maybe you are violating their design patent, but you didn't realize it because you didn't know they had a design patent. And so then it's a different story. So it's hard for me to answer that question without knowing the details, but basically, yes, there are options, and if it is bogus, you can fight it.
All right, well, that is about all the time that we have left today. Thank you so much, Cynthia, for sharing your experiences and your expertise with us. We really appreciate your time today.
Absolutely. So, you know, if you guys have any questions, you know how to reach me, and do download Feedvisor's ebook. I had a chance to look at it. It's really good.
Thank you, and thank you to everyone listening in. For anyone whose questions we didn't have a chance to get to today, we'll be sure to follow up and get in touch with you. And as a reminder, we'll be sending out a link to today's recording shortly. So with that, please feel free to reach out if you're interested in learning more. And thank you, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.